Hi, your host. Today we're doing something a little bit different. I invited my friend Michelle, and we're going to have a conversation about starting the process of what are the questions to ask and what are the questions to answer as someone who hires a person to look for a property when you're selling or when you want to invest in a market. Because look, the reality is this: I'm not an expert on researching markets, on researching where do I get my best return on investment. And for that, I want to hire Michelle. But in today's episode, it's going to be a conversation with Michelle, and let's give it a shot. Thank you for joining me here at the Hosting Journey one more time. I know. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about who we are.
So, we talk God. I think we talk at least 2 or 3 times a week. I think maybe I talk to you more than I talk to my mother. But yeah, Evelyn, we met 5 or 6 years ago now. Through, if anybody remembers, Airbnb used to have community boards, and I would hack Evelyn's community board to use it for growth of our business. And I'm a property manager based out of New York City. We also have offices in Berlin, in Belgrade, and I'm working on Bali at this time, Asia. Well, I guess that'll be my first landing in Asia.
You started with hosting as well. So before you were a property manager, you also used to host, and then you evolved into becoming a property manager.
Yeah, I definitely have started with Airbnb 1.0, and now I think as the company has grown, we've moved forward into Airbnb 2.0, along with everybody else who's we've all grown up. The industry has grown up. Airbnb just had their IPO, and it's definitely more of a it's a profession now.
I know, because when we started, so I've been hosting, dear host, if you don't know me, my name is Evelyn Badia, and I started hosting in 2010. So at the time of this recording, it's been over 10 years. And I started with renting the bedroom in my apartment. So like Michelle, I was 1.0, one of the original, where I was renting a space in my home with guests. So yes, I lived with guests. I heard them. I was okay with all of that. My guests had a private bedroom, a living room, their own entrance, but we share bathrooms, kitchen, noises, because my wall for my bedroom and their walls was right there. So, and my business has evolved through the years as well. I now have a property in Puerto Rico, La Casita. And one of the reasons why Michelle and I are doing this video series and this podcast series is because I'm selling my New York property, which is my New York home. This is my home. This was not, I didn't buy it to do Airbnb like many people are doing nowadays. This is where I live. This is my home. And I'm selling it. And part of the deal is I have to invest the capital gain. If not, I'm going to pay a lot of money. So we're both very experienced hosts. And in your case, you're a very experienced property manager.
In a prior conversation, or before we decided to record this, we were talking about what is a 1031 exchange and why is it useful? Why do people need to know about this? And then we were discussing why we were going to work on Evelyn's, or why she was going to hire Cityami to assist with her 1031 exchange. And we thought, this is something that's really interesting, really relevant for a lot of people in this industry, people that are new in the industry, people that are growing with the industry like we did. This isn't either of our first time with doing a 1031 exchange, but it is our first time recording, guys. So let's see.
It's actually my first 1031 exchange.
So it's your first 1031 exchange. This is.
And look, when you don't know something, it becomes like, okay, let me just get informed. At least for me, like, let me find out as much information. Let me educate myself. I had a 1031 intermediary on my podcast, and I'm going to link to that podcast episode on the description below, who explains a lot about 1031 exchanges. So we want to keep this one more about you and I working together. But basically, a 1031 exchange is when you exchange a property, a real estate investment property, not your primary residence, but investment property into a like property. You don't have to be a house for a house. It could be a house for a condo. It could be a house for commercial property. So it could be for something else, but it has to still be real estate. At some point in the past, it used to be real estate to boats or anything else, but they changed the law. So right now, yeah, I know, cattle.
Real estate's real estate. You only get to buy real estate. Sorry, Evelyn.
Real estate to real estate. Nonetheless, because a lot of hosts like myself, I also use part of my house as my primary residence. So you might think like, yeah, but can I still do this? And yes, you can. You will do primary residence, and then they deduct that, and then they do how much space do you use for your investment property? How much time were you renting it? It has to be over a year. And how much space of it, and what were you doing in your taxes? So all of that is really, really important. You got to talk to a CPA, you got to talk to your lawyer, and you got to talk to an intermediary.
So let's dig right in. So before we get started, so everybody understands. So you're selling your property.
Mm-hmm.
What is the value of your property? What are we expecting to close? And how much time do we have to go from selling the property to finding a new property and closing on that new property?
Okay, so this is good questions. Thank you very much. All right, so there is what you bought your property at, the money that you invested in your property, capital gain, capital expenditures. For example, I did the roof 2 years ago. In 2020, in January, I spent $40,000 and did the siding of the house. And yes, you're going to say, what? I could buy a house with 40 grand. And yes, you can, but not in New York. In New York, that was the cost of the siding, and that's a capital expenditure. There's a difference between capital expenditure and you painting the interior of your house. That is not deducted. The capital expenditure is. So you have to talk to your CPA, and find out what's the basis of from the money you're selling, and how much you can deduct. And it becomes like, what is the 1031 exchange? Because it could be the entire amount. It doesn't have to be. Also, how much you have depreciated. So this is like beyond my pay grade. This is like
right. So for the purpose of our search, do you know how much do we have to invest?
I have to invest. I just got numbers from my brand new accountant, and she said over $800,000. And we know that it's between $800,000 to $1.2 million. The house is selling $1.8 million. Mm-hmm. And because I have personal property, and look, and one of the reasons why I'm being super honest about these numbers is because they're public.
Right.
All you have to do is a little Googling, and you could find out this information. So yeah, I'm not being like, oh my God, Evelyn is.
So just to get right in, how much? So 5 questions. The 5 questions that you need to ask yourself when you are investing in a property, and in our case, when we're doing a 1031 exchange. And I'm going to list them off, and then we'll get into the answers. How much do you have to invest? What is your ROI goal? ROI is the return on investment. What type of investor or what kind of lifestyle do you want? What is your risk tolerance? Are you okay with going into a market that's hot and booming and could be great, but could also implode in the next 2 years, like we've all seen happen in Detroit? Or do you want to go for a market that's really strong, steady? There's a good chance that it's going to continue to grow, like LA. And then what is your cash out goal? Do you want to sell and close the property and cash out in 5 years, 10 years? Or is this a lifelong investment? Is this your retirement savings in 30 years and you're going to die with the property? These are the 5 questions that you need to ask yourself, and we will get right into that. But one last question, I think the question that is relevant for a 1031 exchange, and it's not relevant for all investments, how much time do we have? So I know we had spoken a little bit before this before this video call, but how much time do you have to close and how much time do you have to find the property?
So the clock starts ticking the day I close. And the day I close, there's 45 days to identify the property. And these are calendar days. So the holidays are included, the weekends are included. It doesn't matter anything. New Year's Day, all of that is included. So 45 days. If I close January 5th, we have 45 days to identify properties. So you provide your intermediary, and I'm going to continue saying that word badly. Forgive me. And what we're going to do is we submit a list to them. Once you submit that list, that's it. You have to buy those property. You cannot add on to them. And that is like it. That's
it. So you select three properties.
And then from 45 days, you have another 135 days to close. If you cannot close any of those properties, your 1031 exchange, it's not valid. They will hold on to the money until the exchange expires, which is 180 days total. And then you're going to have to pay your capital gain taxes on the next on your taxes in my case, it will be in 2022.
So Q&A time, Evelyn. So how much do you have to invest? We already have that 800,000 to 1.2 million. Maybe you decide to invest 1.2, maybe 800,000, depends on the properties that we find. What is your return on investment goal? Depending on places, I know that here in Germany, people are really happy when they see a 3% or 5% return. 5% can be really crazy. In the US, I tend to hear more around the 10%. What is your return on investment goal?
Well, let's see if we buy a house that is $400,000. Okay. How much will that house earn? And then it's also like how much will that house grow in equity through the years? How much will that market be? So there's the return on investment of the percentage, but then there's also like in all the conversations that you were talking about in reference of like the quality of life and everything else. What kind of life do I want? So my return on investment is like I wanted to be able to pay for my life, all my properties, but also money for retirement. So it's saving for retirement. I'm a woman of a certain age. I am debt free. Once I sell the house is my debt. The properties that I'm going to be buying, I'm not going to buy them all in cash. But I do need to invest a certain amount of money. And I actually need, per the regulations and rules, I have to have a certain amount of money in mortgages because I have a mortgage right now. The way
Okay. So so we spoke a little bit about what type of investor do you want to be? What kind of lifestyle do you want? There are many ways that you can do this. I think what you had alluded to, you can definitely take that 800,000 or 1.2 million and you can put it as a down payment on many properties. So you can put it as a 20% down payment on 4 properties of 1 million each. You can also just put it back into one property and have that one property and that's all you've got because that's kind of all you need. What kind of investor do you want? Are you a professional investor or is this kind of a side business and you have other things going?
I do have other things going, but I do not, and we've spoken about this. I didn't see myself as a professional investment. And I also never saw myself as a professional real estate investor. Like I didn't buy my house thinking like, oh yes, I'm investing. I bought my house because I wanted to buy a house. And then I bought it for $500,000.
Excellent returns.
Exactly. But I have also failed. I've told you about the house in Harlem that I bought where I lost $200,000. Hard pill to swallow, but we grow from those experiences. And because of that experiences, I'm not cocky about returns. I'm not cocky about like, oh, I know what I'm doing and I want to learn and I want to do this. I don't feel comfortable on putting all the money in just one property because I do feel that markets change very quickly. Can we say New Jersey, Portland, Detroit, all the different markets, the world?
So you would say that you have a low risk tolerance in this case
I want to
after
say
having been
medium.
burned once.
I want to say
Medium. You don't get to be medium. It's high or low.
why are you like
Fine. Because it's really fine. We'll stick with medium. And what is your cash out goal? Do you? I mean, I don't want to get into your personal on camera whether or not you plan to retire someday. But do you, on this particular investment, with this 800,000 to 1.2 million, do you want to cash out in 5 years, 10 years, or 30 years? And this honestly ties a lot into the type of loan you take as well.
because I see it as part of my retirement plan, I cannot tell you what my cash out goals are because I think it will depend on how the market is. I know that I would like to leave properties to my will, on my
Right.
my retirement.
So
that.
I would say based on that, you do have a long-term cash out goal, because definitely if you're in the 5 or 10 year bucket, that's something that you want to know in advance, because you're going to make decisions based on wanting to sell in 5 years, based on wanting to sell in 10 years. If you're not sure if you want to sell in 5 or 10 years, go for the 30 years, plan for the 30 years. But this does mean that, there are some loans that penalize you for paying off the loan early. So if you take out one of these loans, you need to be sure that you're comfortable with a long-term investment.
Well, no, I would like a loan that, and I've been talking to Quicken Loans because they have my loan right now. And I could buy up to 10 property. I could have up to 10 mortgages with them, that are investment properties. So you see, I've been doing my due diligence, even if they're not primary residents. I do not want to be penalized if I pay it off early or if I sell early, because again, market changes.
Yeah, it does.
Would you have told me in January that I was going to sell by the end of the year? No, not at all. Not at all. I will have not spent $1,000 on siding.
I don't. Whatever. Okay, awesome. So I think that's it for now. That gives me enough to get started, and I'm going to come back with a few properties to get you started and a few things that we'll look at, and then I'll have more questions on our next call.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to this.
I'm looking forward to helping you find your property or 5 properties.
Okay, so that was the conversation with Michelle, the first one of what's going to be a nice little series, because I'm selling New York and I need to buy, I'm saying, at least 3 to 4 properties. We'll see what she comes up with. And if you want to be part of that conversation and if that journey, yes, you see, the hosting journey. So if you want to be part of my own journey of me buying, and they're going to be vacation rental properties for now, and I'm going to tell you why in other episodes. Hey, sign up, subscribe, get notified, do all those things, and like the video, and let me know, have you ever invested? Have you ever bought anything? Have you ever done a 1031 exchange? Do you know about 1031 exchanges? What are you doing in reference of your own journey for your hosting? Okay, thank you.